All right, welcome. I'm doing this from the hotel room in cold South Korea. It's a good one here. It's about minus 13 C outside. It's probably like in the 30s for those of you that use Fahrenheit. Regardless, today we're going to be talking about Dev Diary 103. Today we're going to be talking about Civics, Sentient perks and changes and additions within the Cherry update, as well as Apocalypse. So there's quite a lot of stuff to go through. We've kind of already covered some of this stuff in the past, but it's time to go for a little bit more detail. First of all, Ascension perks. As we talked about this in Dev Diary 94, as well as the video that I did like 6 months ago, urging Paradox to do something along these lines, that Ascension perks are moving into the base game to a certain extent. So we are going to have certain Ascensions, at least the basic ones, being moved into the base version of the game, whereas all the Utopia-based ones, as well as the other ones from the various expansions, such as Synthetic Dawn, being only available if you have those expansions. It's like mega structures, that sort of thing. So, what can we actually expect from these things to be added into Cherry? So we've got Asteroid Dominion, which is pretty straightforward, but considering Asteroid Dominion applied to the old border system and the border rage modifier no longer really applies to the game. Instead, what it's going to do is going to reduce the cost of influences on new star bases and claims by 20%. Now, considering I haven't really touched Cherry yet and I don't have access to the build, it means that we can't really give a lot of feedback on it because we don't have quote-unquote final numbers. So that's something that we want to keep in mind. Still, minus 20% on influence in the long term could be a pretty big difference, especially once the influence costs will shoot up. But we shall take a look at that. Mastery of Nature, we have already talked about this a little bit. It's going to be overhauled completely. That planets will be able to gain additional tiles based around a... what should we call this? Basically a thing that we can add to the planets and basically say, okay, this planet is so many tiles, we click on it, and poof, we get additional tiles on the planet. On paper, this could be really, really strong for a one planet challenge. However, we're going to talk about one planet challenge very shortly as well. So this may not be the most useful one. So in this particular example, the one they give is that a size 10 planet can become a size 13, which in itself can be very useful, especially if you have a lot of smaller planets. World Shaper is being changed as well. This one is actually kind of interesting. World Shaper is going to change in such a way that you can only get Gaia transformations if you have World Shaper. As that's pretty interesting by itself. Gaia worlds do have a decent resource production bonus, which is quite good. Let's see, what else do we got here? And yeah, and basically the main idea is that to improve the terraforming play style and making Gaia worlds a little bit more special. So don't go and steal those Holy Worlds from Fallen Empires. That's probably not a very good idea. Let's take a look here. We went back and buffed the biological ascension path by making its special trait stronger and in some cases cheaper. I'll take a look at that once that comes out. We also plan to add more traits in general and give robot modding another look over, which I think is necessary. Robot modding, while very powerful, is lacking those end game strong traits that we can give to robots. So new Ascension perks for Cherry and Apocalypse. So this is a mixture. We're going to go over everything. Eternal Vigilance, which is a Cherry feature. It basically increases starbase and defense platform hull points and defense platform capacity for your starbase. It's basically making your defenses stronger. Executive Vigor, which is a Cherry update. It gives a plus 100% edict duration. Oh, that's interesting. So allowing a player to keep more edicts running at the same time without burning through their influence. That's actually a really interesting one. Executive Vigor. In combination with a very strong, with one of the Civics that gives a 50% bonus to influence from factions, that could be very interesting. So we'll take a look at that. Nihilistic Acquisition, which is a Apocalypse feature, is available to Gestalt Consciousness. So it's basically any of the robots / hive minds, authoritarians, and xenophobes, which allows the use of raiding of orbital bombardment, which basically steals pops from planets, and then you can use them as slaves. or livestock/batteries if you're a hive mind or machine empire. So that's kind of cool. So you can be like a raiding force and then establish status quo once you've stolen all the pops and kidnapped them. I don't really like the word slaves. I like prisoners with jobs. I'm sure some of you get that reference. Enigmatic engineering, which is also an apocalypse one. For the secretive tech-heavy player, this is going to be really good for multiplayer. Enigmatic engineering makes reverse engineering of your attack impossible. So if your ships die, it's impossible for other species to steal that tech to implement on their ships. So no battle debris spawn, and you get a bonus to sensor range, which is kind of nice. Let's take a look here. The new Colossus Ascension perk is being added. So that's pretty straightforward. Then we're going to talk about new Civics. These are apocalypse features. One thing that is kind of interesting and has been alluded to, it looks like at some point in the future, a lot of these new Civics even, are going to be added as starter civics for nations, so that they're going to be completely separate systems. So for instance, we've got the parallel evolution system civic, or the one for robots, etc. And there's a couple being added, including a post-apocalyptic, life-seeded, and barbaric despoilers, which are civics. But it looks like maybe in the future those are going to be moved to a feature that you can automatically apply to your species if you want to, but we'll take a look at that. Post-apocalyptic, your empire is born in the aftermath of a nuclear war that devastated your home world. You start on a tomb world with almost no resources, but your leader has a survivor trait, granting plus 10 leader lifespan and plus 70% tomb world habitability, which means that you can basically colonize anything. Life seeded means that you start on, this is the one that it's really nice for one planet challenge. You start on a size 25 Gaia world, but with Gaia world preference, which means that you have 0 habitability on all non-perfect worlds, and that is pretty much that. So you can only settle on other Gaia worlds, habitats, and ring worlds. So this in combination with the World Shaper ethic or perk would be kind of useful, to say the least. Barbaric Despoilers, the Civic unlocks immediate use of the raiding stance, and the special despoliation causes belly. It allows you to declare war on any neighbor to seize their pops and resources. It requires a combination of militarists and either xenophobic or authoritarian, and is not available to xenophiles. Empires with this Civic cannot take nihilistic acquisition perks, as it will do nothing to them. They can also not form defensive packs or join federations, similar to Inwards Perfection, and they get the adaptability Tradition Tree instead of Diplomacy. So that's rather interesting. Basically, space pirates / slavers for slaving species. That would be pretty cool. Next week, next week, he says, coming Thursday, we're gonna have the last Death Diary for Cherry Sash Apocalypse, with minor features, quality of life, and after that, it's patch notes time. And then it's release day, so I'm very excited about that, so we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'm currently in Korea in my hotel room. I'm overlooking the Sea of Japan. It's very cold outside, and I'm having a good time. But I miss you guys. I wish I could do more content and, crank that out. But with Cherry coming up, taking some time away is also good. But in the meantime, we're going to leave it at this. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to smash that like button. We gotta get those PewDiePie references in there. But until next time, take good care of yourselves and, as always, each other.